We're very glad you're here. It's great to see familiar and new faces, and everyone is very welcome. So, time to begin. Danielle, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And
Thanks for
thank
having
you for,
me.
and this is the bit where I can maybe formally say thank you so much for making all this possible as
Oh,
well, really. So really, really appreciate it. And it's, it's fantastic to be on event two already, and people are really enthusiastic about these. Let's talk about you then. Let's begin with you. What led you to become a producer in the first place?
it certainly wasn't a straight path. I decided at 3 years old to become an actor. I did obviously the obligatory nativity and was just so much better than everyone else. Everyone else was rubbish and I was really good. So I decided there and then that that was the only path for me. And that became true. I did after my school years, I went to drama school and I had a really, really great, nearly 10 years career as an actor. But the reason I became an actor was because I love the theatre, and virtually my entire career was not on the stage. It was in television and film, which was great for the bank balance, but not great for my soul. And I was just about to turn 30 and I'd been in a long running soap, which is one thing I said I would never do. And my contract was not going to be renewed because my on-screen husband died in a horrific car crash. And they didn't have any need for me after that. And I thought this is a really good time to maybe just stop. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew that I wanted to get back to the theatre in some way or other. I should let it be known at this point that my mother and father were desperately disappointed that I decided to become an actor, because I was actually quite clever. I did really well at school. I did great in academic subjects, and they just thought it was a horrible waste. But I think that's an important note to say that, the brain was there for the bits that became important to becoming a producer. And the one thing I think I hated most about being an actor was the lack of control, the completely being in the hands of one's agent or the casting director or the producers who were making all these decisions were based on whatever they were basing their decisions on, which were rarely about the things that I thought they should be about. It was about getting back to the theatre, but also getting back control. I met a friend for a coffee, and the friend said they were having trouble working on their current play because their producer wasn't very present and was very, very busy on a job, and would I come in and do some bits and pieces to help? And bits and pieces, I can't do bits and pieces, I have to do the whole thing or nothing. By the end of that show, other than the bit about raising money, which is a really big part of a producer's job, I suddenly thought, oh, hang on a minute, I think that's what producing is. Because look, in those days, you couldn't go to school to learn to be a producer. You didn't, there's lots of courses now, but 30 odd years ago, that didn't exist. So I didn't really know what it was, but what I realized was I loved the organization side of making theatre. I loved it wasn't there and then it was, to quote Sondheim, look, I made a hat where there never was a hat. It's that idea of just creating something. And I realized naively, you don't have to be on stage to make theatre. And that was the beginning of it. About 5 minutes after that, I found somebody who wanted to found a venue with me, which we went on and did. And then that's when I actually learnt all the realities of being a producer. But yeah, it certainly wasn't a straight path. It certainly wasn't something I intended. But my God, now that I'm here, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Wow. Yeah. What do you think the qualities are then to be effective and to be successful? I mean, you obviously had quite a natural gift, and you touched on there about all the other, the capabilities that you had in place anyway, kind of thing. You did say to me before when we chatted a few weeks ago about four things, but I'm gonna let you.
So look, you have to please note, this is to everybody listening.
Karen's downstairs. Do you want me to get her?
I am very much.
Sorry, I'm just going. It's okay. Fine.
I take everything I'm saying with a pinch of salt. I use humor a lot, so this is not entirely true what I'm about to say. But there's basically 4 principles to being a producer. The first one is you have to know how to use an Excel spreadsheet. Second thing, you have to get on with people. The third thing is you have to have some sense of zeitgeist. And the fourth thing is you have to know rich people. And nothing else is important. Of course it is. I'm being very flippant. But really, you can learn the practicalities of how to work with a producing house. But those 4 things, those are the things that I learned. I realized early on, if I didn't have those 4 things, I wouldn't be a producer.
Yeah, yeah. There's, I think I'd be all right for all of those, apart from knowing the rich people. So, that's a great asset to have.
And I think the interesting thing is, because I mentor a lot of young producers, and they always say, oh, how did you find your investors? Where do you get your money from? And the answer to that question is, I'm not fucking telling you. They're mine. Go and find your own.
Well, yeah, I could imagine that's the hardest bit
Yeah.
of what were you doing. I mean, was it those 4 things then? Would that be the advice you'd give to anybody who wants to become a producer themselves?
I mean, it's not really advice. It's not, because it's not, I mean, they're not really things that you can particularly learn apart from how to use Excel. If you're a people person, you're a people person. But what I would say is nowadays the advice would be different now than it was when I started out, because there are so many great resources out there to learn how to be a producer. Stage One does a fantastic weekend course where you can just, I mean, I was going to say anyone can do it. You have to be selected to do it, but anyone can apply to go and spend a long weekend and learn about commercial producing. That didn't exist in my day. There are drama schools now run courses for producers. I think they tend to be MA courses. I don't know if that's true, but I think they're MA. But there are absolutely places out there now you can go to actively learn how to produce, as opposed to just make it up as you go along. The other way, of course, is to go and sit making coffee and filing in a great big commercial house, because you will pick things up left, right, and centre. It's harder to do that because there's so few jobs around.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what would your advice? Because obviously you've worked in theatre for a length of time now, really. But anybody who wants to get into theatre generally,
Yeah.
be that on the front face of it, be actor, writer, but equally, set designer and sound design, and what do you have any kind of thoughts about where we're at the moment? Really, that's kind of useful things to bear in mind in the industry.
Look, I think without wanting to be negative at the beginning of this question, the problem is we are absolutely saturated. The industry is jam-packed full with more people than there are jobs. So it is hard, but that shouldn't stop anyone trying, because somebody's got to get the job, and why not you? So I think for actors, I mean, obviously drama school is a very good route in, and drama school doesn't have to just be for 18-year-olds. There are great courses out there. Great MA courses. I mean, I teach on one MA course, and the oldest person in the class was 43. So, there's no reason why it has to be kids. There are lots of courses that you can do outside of drama school that aren't full time. But I think it's about, and I think amateur. I think we all sort of turn our nose up at amateur, but my God, Amdram does some of the most professional work I've ever seen, because it matters. Everyone there is there because they absolutely want to be. So I think there are lots of routes into it, but I think working at your local theatre, getting some experience. If you just want a taste of, I don't know which bit I want to go into, local theatres need all the help they can get. So any sort of volunteering in that sense will give you an amazing sense of community and being part of something, but also really giving back.
A foot in the door kind of approach, then, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the kind of more, technical side, or the behind the scenes side? Is that also oversaturated as well? Or?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, the answer 6 years ago would have been yes, but when the pandemic came along, so many of the technical departments just went straight to telly and film, which of course didn't stop, and then realised there's a lot more money in telly and film, and never came back. So actually, sound, lights, and wardrobe, we could do with some more.
Yeah, that's a hot tip, really, to be honest. To hear that, that's a bit sad, really, as well. Yeah.
It is. I mean, I don't think anyone should be under the illusion that working in theatre is the best job in the world, but it is also incredibly hard. It's long hours, inevitably low, not low pay, but nobody's going to get super rich working in theatre. That's for sure. That's not the reason we do it. But again, for every negative, we get to work in theatre, and what a gift that is.
Yeah, yeah. So you spoke about the zeitgeist, about having a feel for the zeitgeist. Are there definable qualities that you, are there things, is there like a tick list of what you look for when you go see a play that you go, ah, right, that is going to be a hit. That's something I want to produce. That's
Yeah.
something I wouldn't touch. Those kinds of things. Have you got a guide sheet for us on that?
Again, I wish it was that easy. I wish I could just say, if you go to page 27 in my handbook, you'll read all the things that will make you a successful producer, because then we'd all be successful and we'd all be millionaires and there'd be no rubbish theatre. And let's be clear, there's a lot of rubbish theatre out there. But
Yeah,
no, I think, listen, and I think just to, before I answer your question, just the point that I made about zeitgeist is also incredibly difficult, is getting more and more difficult, because in the good old days, I used to be able to book a show for 6 months' time. Now, because of theatre availability, and I think there's still a little bit of a backlog from the pandemic, but just because there's so much work being made, I'm probably booking something for a year and a half.
yeah,
So who knows? If you're doing something topical, that's really hard, because who knows that when it actually gets to the stage, whether anyone will care anymore. So, that is tricky. But things that I look for in a piece, I mean, it's a two-pronged answer, I suppose. The first one is if it's a brand new piece. So if somebody's just sending me a script and first of all, don't send me scripts. I don't read unsolicited scripts. I'm not going to do that. However, if there is a script on my desk that I do come to read, it's very simple for me. It's, does it move me? And I think that what I was saying earlier about that sort of having a good sense of what people will like, what's producible, what zeitgeist is. It's about, I think, to be a good producer, you have to sort of know what people want, and that can be myriad. But just to have a sense of, if I like it, I think other people will too. Because listen, my job, as much as I've got to have something I love, and because that will make my life more fulfilling, I've got to know I can sell it. The most important thing for me is to be successful, because if I fail, the next time will be harder, and the next time will be harder. So does it move? Because for me, theatre is about being moved, and that doesn't mean emotion. That doesn't mean it has to make me cry. Just, do I end the evening in a different place than I started? Has it moved me in some way? Has it affected me and changed my outlook? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that sort of commercial entertainment. Those shows make a lot of money and they're great. That's just not the sort of theatre that I want to make. I definitely don't think that it shouldn't be made, and there is a huge place for it, and the industry survives on those big sort of behemoth shows that entertain us, and we can leave our brains at the door and pick it up on the way out and just have a good time. Nothing wrong with that. I want something that an audience needs to work a little bit harder at. So yeah, for me, it's, does it move me in whatever that means? And that could be laugh out loud or sobbing, or has it changed the way I see the world? And in terms of, if we just bring it back to the White Chip, obviously not a new play, but when I was sitting in the, and listen, genuinely, what an idiot I must have been. There I was. I went out just thinking I was going to watch a play. Little did I know that it was the beginning of a big master plan, and which has paid off, because now we're here bringing it to London. But I just sat there to enjoy a good night at the theatre, which I did, and it moved me. I felt moved by it. So then when the conversation started with Sean about, is this something that I might be interested in bringing over the pond? It was a very easy yes, because if it moved me, I think it can move other people. Now, with the White Chip, there are a million other things to talk about along the lines of the importance of it, which we can come to in a bit. But even if all of that were true, and it didn't move me, I probably wouldn't be producing it.
So you go and see theatre, basically. This is how you find the plays that, yeah. And I remember when we've spoken before in a separate conversation today, was that I think you said to me, excuse me if I'm paraphrasing you wrong, but a script in itself doesn't work for you. It's like theatre is about the live,
Yeah.
about seeing it there, and so that's what you need to see, isn't it? Is that, and I think for any aspiring theatre maker kind of thing, is the advice then make the stuff and get people along to it. Would that be a kind of general rule of thumb, really?
Yeah.
You take your show to Edinburgh, take it to Vault Festival if that still goes on. That's
Yeah.
and you and other producers would be likely to that would be the point where you enter and then go, do you know what? I think there's real potential in this.
Yeah. I mean, look, and this is just personal to me, but reading scripts is the worst part of the job. I find it's work. It feels like work to me, reading scripts. And it's funny because I love reading books, but picking up a script, even though I could probably get it knocked out in a couple of hours, I procrastinate more than you could possibly imagine. I'd rather clean the toilet than read a script. It's just a bit that I hate. So, but I know I have to do it, and I will do it if I have to, but I would much rather see something. However, that suggests that, the aspiring theatre makers, so somebody's got to make it first in order for me to be able to go and see it. And if someone's already made it, then it has already, for want of a better word, been produced. So, I appreciate that, it's not, I think the notion that new theatre makers have to do it themselves before someone grown up comes along and picks it up is really tough. Because, I don't expect a playwright to know how to produce their own work. I don't expect a director to have to put the money in to put a show on just because they want to make it. It's tough. That entry level is really tough.
Yeah. Last general question on your productions. Have there been things along in your career that have surprised you or gone in different directions from when you picked a play up and then taken it to stage? Or are you in charge of that as the producer? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. I really do. So yeah, I mean, look, the answer is I am in charge, and every decision at some point in the process has been touched by me, even if it's I hire a director who then makes a decision. If I've done my job correctly and got the right director in, then we are going to have the same vision for the piece. And I don't believe in, buying a dog and wagging the tail yourself. So I don't want to do everybody's job for them. If I've got the right people in post, then they will do a good job. But not everything always goes to plan. I can't now immediately think of an occasion where something's gone well. Okay, here's the thing. I never know what time is anymore since the pandemic. I was going to say about 5 years ago, but actually it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, because we forget about those 2 years. There's an American composer that I work with a lot, and he'd written a new piece that we were very interested in doing. We knew it needed a couple of workshops before it got on the stage, but we were very up for it. Then the pandemic came and we didn't do it. And actually, I think in 2021, when we were sort of allowed to be together but weren't actually making any work for theatres, we decided to do a workshop of it. And the whole piece was centered around a sort of it's set in Russia, and Russia were the good guys. And you know what? We're not doing it. and I won't say any more than that. But let's not turn this into a political discussion. But now is most definitely not the time. So money and resources were spent on doing something that may or may not ever see the light of day, because and that doesn't take away from how brilliant the material is. But it's just you've got to be constantly aware of what's going on. And again, comes back to what I said before about zeitgeist. Just listen, have one ear on what's going on in the world. Don't live in your bubble.
You couldn't have just changed the name of the country, or
the piece would literally have been so flimsy if it had gone away. If that had gone away, yeah.
Being really, really flippant. So let's talk about the white chip. It's going to be here before we even know it now, isn't it?
Can you not say that, please? Can we just all take
It's a few weeks. But we're in an exciting moment for the production. I know we can't talk yet about who's in it, kind of thing, but that's coming this week, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah. We are fully cast. Everybody's signed their contracts. So yes, we'll be announcing the cast on Friday.
And it was an exciting process, because I know quite a bit of this, because obviously I talk to you quite regularly. Yeah. So it's been a dream cast to come bring together. It fell together quite nicely.
I mean, look, again, casting's a funny old thing. You think you know what you want, and then sometimes somebody just walks in the room and demands the role. And that's what happened with our lead. I think on paper, he wouldn't have been at the top of our list. In fact, I don't know why I'm saying that. On paper, he wasn't at the top of our list, but he just came in and was so authentically right for the role and so committed to the work and so open to talking about his own experiences, which are not firsthand, but very much secondhand. There was absolutely no way we couldn't have given him the role. And he will be brilliant. And as Matt Ryan, the director, said, as we were going through the process, the role of Stephen will be, the way Stephen is portrayed will be by whoever plays the role. So it's not like you have to hit these marks. You have to, it's that person's will bring their own personality to it. And he's going to be brilliant. That's all I'm going to say on that. And the fact that I can't tell you his name is crazy.
But that's merely hours away, to be fair, isn't it?
Exactly.
This Friday that this gets announced, and everybody else is all lined up in terms of for every aspect of the production now, isn't it?
Yeah, we are now fully. Yes, all the creatives are in place. They're all starting work. In fact, I have a design meeting tomorrow morning where we will sign off on the design. So we're sort of good to go. Look, the point I get to now is, and we always say it after we've announced the cast, which is, well, I guess we got to do it then. Yeah. And that's where we are now.
Yeah. It's a silly question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's your favourite bit then? Is it the kind of setting it all up, or is it press night, or is it like when it's all over, or is there
there are many bits that I love. I love casting. I love the casting process. Because again, you start putting your family together. And I think I'm a big believer in that. Yes, you want the best people for the job, but you also want a family. You want people you can, be. We will spend once this play is rehearsed, once we're in the run, we will spend 3 hours a day in the theatre. It's what happens for the other 21 hours of the day. You want to love the people you're spending time with, and that's very important to me. So putting a family together is as important to me as putting the best people for the job. So I love that bit. I love a first day of rehearsal because that's when the family first comes together. But if I'm absolutely honest, I think my genuinely favourite moment is, people think I'm mad because this is most people's least favourite part. I love first preview and I love watching the audience. We've given birth to this baby and we hold it out and say, look at our baby. What do you think of our baby? And directors hate that bit. Writers hate that bit. Actors are terrified because they're on doing it. Whereas for me, I learned so much from watching an audience response to the piece. And so long as they clap at the end, that's my favourite bit.
Yeah. Well, good. I think it's time to open questions out to others.
Sure.
So please do put your hands up or put something in the chat box that you'd like. Molly, would you like to give us the first question, please?
Hello. Really nice to meet you, Danielle.
Hi, Molly.
Hello, this sounds really exciting. I'd just like to take it back a step and go back to before you became a producer, because I think that experience that you had as an actor was so kind of seminal, wasn't it, for you to then become a producer? And I suppose for a lot of people who are trying to get into writing plays or becoming a producer, I just wondered how much it would benefit those people to go off and do other roles within the theatre.
Right.
Do you think that sort of extra curricular stuff, like doing a bit of stand-up or stuff that you can actually access and that you can get, you could go to your local, I don't know, stand-up comedy night or whatever and, do a set. I just wondered if there was any kind of, is that worth doing?
What I will tell you is this. I truly believe I'm a better producer because I have experienced it from the other side. And I'm sure that's true of people who, if you do a stage management course, for instance, or if you do a technical theatre course, a 3-year course, they will make you do a bit of everything before in your 3rd year you end up on where you're going to be. And I think that, again, so it means you're in the right place, but it also means you have an empathy towards other departments. And I think that any experience around what you do will make you better at the thing that you do. So absolutely. And I think, you know, I think the best advice I can give for whatever bit of theatre you want to get into is go to the theatre. I'm amazed that people who want to be in theatre don't go and see. I know it's expensive. But the best learning is watching other people. And you know, it's an old adage in life, isn't it? You learn more from things going wrong. So, you know, go and see rubbish theatre, because then you know what you don't want to do or what you don't want to see next time. So I don't think there's any experience of being in live theatre that won't help. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Laura, would you like to ask your question, please?
Hiya. Sorry,
Laura.
I'm on like a delayed train, so if there's overhead announcements, I apologize. But I got into liking producing and stuff through making my own work, and I've made it, and I've got a bursary to take it up to Edinburgh after we've done a few Manchester previews. So I'm very exciting, but it is still like I'm just figuring it out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a lot of stumbling upon stuff, and I have ADHD, so a lot of the problems that I find is with formatting things and actually getting things onto, like you mentioned, using Excel and stuff, which is helpful. So I know that I'm doing that for budgets and stuff, but I'm just wondering, I know it's probably different for every project, but when you get something, what's the first step? You're like, okay, I need to think about this. I'm gonna open Google Sheets and do this, and you know what I mean? It's like, 'cause it's all a mess in the brain. How do you get it out onto paper?
Sure. I mean, first of all, Laura, congratulations for getting something off the ground anyway, without any help from anyone else. Good for you. And listen, here's the thing. Unless you're going to work in a big producing house, the answer to your question is however you want to work. You make your own template. You do it the way works for you. I know that when I started with no training at all, I have formulated a way of working, which is simply my own. I could not apply for a job to go and work at Sonia Friedman Productions, because I wouldn't work the right way for them, because I do it my way. And because I'm a freelance producer who works on my own, it doesn't matter that I'm not doing it the same as the norm or the industry standard, because I've made it work for me. So my simple answer to you is you're not doing it wrong. You're just not doing it wrong. But I would say, right, for me, I have to write everything down. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So every time you have an idea of, oh fuck, I've got to do the entry into the magazine for Edinburgh Fringe, or oh, I've got to do a program, write things down and put yourself a timeline. Work backwards from, this is the day I'm going to stand on stage and give my first performance. What do I need to get there? And work it backwards. And sometimes it will be that just you realize that something doesn't need to be done specifically in any time frame. We'll just get it out of the way and get it done now. Then there'll be other things that you are so defined by external situations that they have to fit into a specific timeline, not defined by you. But I think just write everything down and have a big old spreadsheet, whether it's a spreadsheet or a piece of paper where you write things down and it all comes out of a central, or however works for you and your brain, so that nothing can get forgotten. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was so helpful. Thank you.
Right. But again, I think the most important thing is there is no right. You will never do it wrong unless somebody has asked you for something and you don't do it. Everything else is up to you.
Thank you so much for that.
Pleasure. I hope your train isn't delayed too long.
Thanks for your question, Laura. Issy, would you like to take the floor, please?
Thank you, Leon. Thanks so much for this, Danielle. It's really insightful. And as someone that was trained as an actor, but also kind of wants to do all of it, but that can sometimes be quite overwhelming because I'm sort of get distracted very easily by things. But, and I don't know how to word this question, if you have a piece and you want to, you know, on a small scale, take it and produce it and do something with it, what sort of, and I'm not asking you who your investors are, but like in terms of investment, it's just something that I don't understand, don't know how to sort of go forward to people. Like, are there, and I have, because I do work on social media, there would be brands or people that I could speak to, but I don't really understand what the payback is for them or what they get out of it necessarily.
Sure. I mean, look, this is a bigger conversation than we're going to be able to fix today. And I'm more than happy if that is a genuine, if you would like some more help on that, we can probably do that away from this, because it takes longer than that. It comes down to whether you're looking for donations or whether you're looking for investment. If you're doing two scratch nights at your local pub and you need £5,000 because you need to get there and you need to, well, I'm making numbers up. The reality is they're probably not going to get their money back. So then then I would suggest you do something like crowdfunding. And what they get back is something maybe in kind. So they get a ticket for when you're doing it at the Palladium in 10 years' time, because of this is the beginning, then they will get a ticket, or they will get a credit, or they will get a signed poster, or they will get a something. But the reality is they're probably not going to get their money back. If you're talking about actually raising investment, then there is a really simple model, which is they give you some money. You send them some paperwork which lays out all the terms that they are investing under. And when you hit recoupment, so let's say your show is going to cost, I'm making numbers up, but just your show is going to cost £100,000. Therefore, you need to raise £100,000. When you've made £120,000, you are £20,000 in profit. And that profit gets split between all your investors based on how much the percentage that they've invested. And the way it splits in this country, it's different in the US, but here, 60% of the profit goes to the investors and 40% goes to the producer, because you've got to earn a living as well.
Mm-hmm.
In America, it's 50-50. Here, we're slightly more in favour of the investor. So, for instance, if there was £20,000 profit, 60% of that would go to the investors, broken down into the amounts as per their investment. So if you'd raise £10,000 to make your £100,000, they would get 10% each of 60% of your £20,000.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yes.
How you find someone to give you £10,000, I don't know. That's the tough bit, right?
Yeah.
You can go. The best way to do it is, I think, within the tier of that you're working. So, for instance, if you're going up to Edinburgh, find other people who are doing the same thing and find out where their money comes from. Because if it's at that level, it's most likely to be philanthropy, not venture capital making lots of money, and if people love your work, put it out there. Who's interested in the subject matter of your work, and who might be interested in investing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, all of this is so vague. If it were this simple, we'd all be doing it, and we'd all not have to put our first rule of producing, everyone, is don't invest your own money. The second rule of producing is don't invest your own money. Because if you lose your money, where do you go next? Whereas if you lose an investor's money, that's sad, but you've just found another investor. I'm being flippant again, but do you know what I mean? So just be careful that you still have a house to live in at the end of it. Right? But we are also under no illusion that if you're starting out, and if it is you're taking a show up to Edinburgh and you need a train fare and you need a house and you need 40 grand, £40 for props, and you're probably going to be doing it yourself. And the vain hope that what you're gaining from it is not financial, it's visibility, being, networking, and all of those things, that somebody will then pick it up and take it further. That's minute one of day one of producing school.
Okay, great. Can I have the rest of the school?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it'll cost you.
Yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah, no, listen, it's really hard, and raising money is the hardest part, and raising money was always hard, and raising money is even harder now. That's the reality of where we are. Because unless something is slam dunk going to make a fortune, why would anyone put their money in? But having said that, there are philanthropists out there who have got more money than sense, who just want to do something good. Go find them. The other thing, sorry, I'm rattling on, but the other thing, of course, is Arts Council. But you're a better man than me if you can bear to sit through writing an Arts Council application, because it's not for me. Also, you can't be commercial and arts. You can't make money I think you know that. You can't make a profit for yourself with Arts Council money. That has to be a different way. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure.
Really great questions. Thank you, Danielle. That's really, really great advice. Alex, you have a question?
Hi, thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Leon. Actually, you kind of just answered it at the end. I was going to ask you about Arts Council because at the moment, because I've produced for a little while, and Arts Council is getting harder and harder. And I was just gonna ask, do you think it's always better to put your effort into finding either doing like donation based or investment rather than following Arts Council at the moment? Yeah, that's my question.
I'm not the right person to answer that question because I am very anti Arts Council on that, but that's personal. I think it's a full-time job just to write an application for money that you're not going to get, and it's so incredibly demoralizing that look, and I have to be honest, just to be clear, this is not coming from a point of bitterness. I've never applied for Arts Council funding, so it's not like I'm saying this because they've failed me. It's not that at all. It's just not for me. And I definitely think that there are times when the Arts Council is absolutely the right place to go. But you've got to know how to write that application, or you've got to pay someone to write it for you, because getting the money or not getting the money can be based on you putting a comma in the wrong place, not about the strength of your project. And I find that troublesome.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, it's just good because I live in a world where we do a lot of Arts Council bids.
Right.
So it's good to hear, try something else, that there are other ways.
But also, if you live in a world where you do a lot of Arts Council bids and you're successful, don't ever stop.
Oh yeah, of course.
Have them take the money.
Yeah, always. Lovely. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Really great advice. Are there any more questions? Yes, there is, from Az. How do you deal with so this will be the final question before we go into breakout rooms. How do you deal with a production that isn't going well, director not doing a good job as expected, reputation, etc., or the whole production flat and unlikely to sell? Great question. Thanks, Az.
Yeah. I mean, of course, as I couldn't possibly tell you because I've had no first-hand experience of anything that hasn't been incredibly successful. Wouldn't that be nice? Listen, it's hard. It's absolutely hard, but the producer's job is to manage that and to step in. So I have a rule that if there's dissent, if there's quibbles, if there's things going on, I always say to whoever is at the centre of that issue, I will never come in to solve that until it's the last resort, because after me, there's nowhere to go. So the basically is sort yourselves out, stop being children, figure it out. If that doesn't work, then yes, I do have to step in, but it feels very last resort when it's me making a decision, and that decision is inevitably going to be somebody's not going to like the answer. So in terms of disputes within the production, we try and figure it out before it becomes too big that we can't. In terms of look, the reality is just because I think something's going to sell doesn't mean it will. And that's a really scary situation to be in. And unfortunately, the industry is rather shooting itself in the foot here. Because what we're now living in is in a world of discounting. That something goes on sale, if it's not sold out in 5 minutes, we discount. So if we discount, though, why would anybody buy a ticket in advance? Because they know that if they hang on, they can get it for a discount. So that basically means then our budgets aren't worth the paper they're written on, because we've budgeted for a ticket to be sold at a certain price. And if every single ticket is going to be sold at less than that, then our budget becomes null and void. People aren't buying in advance because they were waiting for discounts. And if they don't buy in advance, what you're doing is you're sitting looking at a show that has no sales. And that's terrifying. I don't know how to fix that, because it needs all of us to fix that. It needs us to just hold our nerve and say there will be no discounts. You know, I had a situation where I went up to see a concert that up in Manchester. There was a concert at the Lowry, and the tickets were £80 for this concert. And on the day, they put all tickets on for £5. What was left? Can you imagine if the person sitting next to you had paid a £5 for a ticket that you paid £80 for? I just, it's a problem. It's a real problem, and it causes people to be disappointed because nobody's got any money. And the flip side of that is, if that producer will always put everything on for a £5 on the day, why on earth would you buy a ticket in advance? You take a small risk that you might not get the seat you want, and don't tell me that if they'd sold 40% of the tickets at £5, that their budget makes any sense now. So there we go. Leon, could you reread the question? Have I answered all of it? I feel like there were three
Let's go
parts.
through
and I
that.
might have-
So how do you deal with the production that isn't going well? Director not doing a good job as expected, reputation, etc., or the whole production flat and unlikely to sell?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look. Again,
Sorry, sorry, my iPhone's going.
it's in terms of something like, you know, if there are creative disputes in the room, that is really tricky. My feeling is, if I've done my job right at the beginning and hired the right people to do that job, then our vision will be aligned, and we will have talked about that a lot before we get too far down the line of it sort of all falling apart. But there are absolutely situations where something goes askew, and damage limitation, I suppose, because at the end of the day, once the train's left the station, you can't stop it. So, you know, once we've announced a show, we're doing it. So it's about damage limitation as much as possible. Worst case scenario, you have to fire someone, you know, but also make sure that your paperwork is in tip-top condition, so that then they don't come at you. So, you know, make sure, just do everything by the book, and make sure your contracts are watertight, and that you are protected as much as. Isn't it interesting how pendulum swings happen at the moment? And I think this is not necessarily just in theatre. This is everywhere. All the power at the moment is with the employee. Like, we can't do anything, you know, which is fine, because there has been for many years, it was all with the employer. But just make sure that your contracts protect you as much as they protect them.
Cool. So straight talking advice as ever from Danielle. Really great. Really enjoyed the conversation. Brilliant questions, actually. Thank you so much, everyone. And the white chip is now on sale. Alex, I suppose you could post the link again as well for people who might have come in and out of the room.
But actually, can I just say one thing? I just say about that, post the link. Please come. Please also know that buy the tickets now, because I'm not discounting. Got it? Good.
Yeah, I think you've made that quite clear. So yeah, thank you so much, Danielle. It's been really great. I know you're going to head off now, so I just want to say again, thank you for supporting these sessions. It's really great to be able to offer this to the addiction recovery arts community. We're all really looking forward to the white chip, because it's going to be brilliant, and it's all set to sail now as well.
I mean, and it really is brilliant. And I'm saying this knowing full well that Sean Daniels, the writer, is in this chat. But the play is brilliant. And I'm not saying that because I'm the producer. I'm saying it because it is. Yeah. It's just brilliant. And it's going to do, it's pure entertainment. You will have a great time at the theatre, but also all the things that it will do around recovery, around what you and I are talking about, Lee, on a regular basis. Imagine going to theatre, having a great time, but also something being a wonderful thing in the world. I'm beyond privileged to be involved. That's how I feel.
Thank you. I think that's a really beautiful way to end this section. Thank you so much, Danielle, for your time. Really
Pleasure.
great.
Great to meet you all. Thanks for coming.